Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we are back to preview Carlton's round 12 clash against Melbourne. The boys, look, they've lost 4 in a row. Form is down, confidence is well and truly down, but we've got a chance to turn things around against the D's this Friday night, get our season back on track. Lockie, how are you going and how are you feeling about this week's game?
I'm feeling good, thank you, mate. I'm sensing the optimism in your tone. Sounds like you feel like we're going to have a win. Am I wrong?
It's this crazy roller coaster, and I reckon it's almost predictable, the behavior on this podcast every week. It's a review
it's a pattern.
On the Monday night, and we're down, and everything's horrendous in the world. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's like this train. It's like the roller coaster just keeps pumping all week, and then we get to Thursday night.
Truly.
And the optimism comes back. You forget about, your brain tries to get rid of and repress everything that happened from the last week. And you go, maybe we are good at footy. Maybe it's all going to happen this week. And then you start to just convince yourself, and we're back again. It's why the podcast continues with these build-up shows, because we kind of just, out of just pure hope, we're back and we think we're going to win. But yeah, it's
exactly right.
The optimism, it always rears its head, particularly on this podcast.
We're only a game and a half outside the 8, mate. One win and we're knocking on the door. Yeah. It feels like, I don't know, 2021 all over again.
Oh, if you don't convince yourself, you wouldn't be able to watch us week in, week out for 26 plus years, really.
No, when we just say the same thing every week. Which I will continue to do today because I want to see the same things that we don't.
And that's what I'm wanting to hear from you, Lockie. We'll start where we always love to start in our "What do we want to see from this game" segment. Now, I feel like we don't need to keep putting 3 up there because honestly, I've run out of so many things to say on this. It's too much at this stage. We're simplifying it for the boys because they're saying, are they overcoached? Is there too many voices at play? Let's simplify things. Let's simplify it for ourselves. Lockie, what is the one thing that you want to see this week? And if you're listening to this at the moment, if you're watching on YouTube, I want to see them down in the comments right now.
Plug.
Like, subscribe at Navy Blue Corner on YouTube if you're a podcast listener and you want to head over. Otherwise, if you're listening, follow us on wherever you are listening to us right now, wherever you get your podcast. Jump over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner and let us know in the DMs, tweet at us, whatever you want, comment on any post. We'll get the notification and let us know what you want to see from this game. But Lockie, what is yours?
There's lots of things going through my head, mate. Great early plug, by the way. Thanks for not bearing that one.
For once. It's a good change, which means we're winning this week.
Look, I mean, it's all I've been talking, people have wanted to talk to me about this week. It's the majority of what we've seen on social media. I have to put it out there and manifest it. I want to see this be the week that Harry shakes it. It's a bit of a cop-out. I don't know if anything would make me happier than seeing him kick 3 or 4 straight in this game. You saw how the boys got around him with that first one against the Pies a few weeks ago. But imagine that becomes 2 or 3. I feel like that's the kind of thing that we need right now to galvanize the group.
No, it's a good one. And it's something that our goal kicking collectively gets spoken about a lot. And I mean, you could even just have on this list, just make them, like you've had a few times, just make the most of your opportunities. I'm sick of, because we speak about it all the time, but we don't make the best opportunities. So it's obviously hard to take those, but at this stage, we've just got to take what we can get. And then going into that other section, if we can start to create better opportunities, then you start nailing them. Then you don't have this pressure, because once you've missed 2 or 3 collectively as a group, even though they're not the easiest options, then all that has to happen is the opposition go down, kick 1, and then the next time you get a shot on goal, you just know that the pressure's on there for you to nail it. So let's make sure we get these goals sorted and that Harry can get it done. And let's segue to something that I had on my little run sheet in front of me, which was talking about Harry on that podcast with him and his brother, chatting about the goal kicking, getting quite personal with it. Do you have any sort of overarching thoughts on that? I assume you did get across that this week.
Yeah. It's been a busy weekend. I heard little clips. I haven't sat and listened to the whole thing, so you'll have to lead it. But it's always just great to see players being vulnerable. And I mean, you've been one that often is just like, we want to hear the real stuff from the club and the players. And that to me all felt pretty transparent from him. And, and we spoke about, must be nice. You get to go to all these player events and sit with all the players every week like you do. And so you get that kind of humanizing factor with them all the time. But for us on the outside, sometimes you need these things to be able to just remember that this is a bloke that, he's rocking up to training every day, trying to work on his craft. And I don't know, it seemed like maybe the mental stuff, well, he didn't display the mental stuff getting to him as much as maybe I would have thought he would have said. Like he was kind of like, he talked a bit about the COVID thing. What was your take?
Well, firstly, a little bit of I don't know if it's a drive-by, but tried to just sneak that little dig at me in there. Been to one event and all of a sudden it's on there every week.
One event. Well, we didn't do the Hall of Fame this week, so you didn't have your little chance to kind of let the people know what you've been up to. So
where I've been this week, what extravagant Carlton event has gone by this week. But no, I think my take on Harry was, it's just, I wasn't expecting it. Particularly, I'll be honest, I've never really listened to his podcast.
No,
not something I tend to dive into myself. So I don't know what they normally talk about, but I kind of assumed it would be less footy stuff. So I was sort of surprised that they actually went with it, because obviously it would have been something that he would have been okay with talking about it. I doubt they just had it on the run sheet and all of a sudden he's like, oh shit, I didn't want to talk about this. So it's kind of, it shows.
I'm the Harry that doesn't get the run sheet.
Yeah, it shows a bit of, I guess, about him that he wants to address it. He doesn't just want it to be this elephant in the room. Shows a bit of maturity and I guess, being someone that does want to hear a lot more from these guys, it was nice to see that vulnerability and accountability. And what was the quote from me that I'm going to paraphrase, basically. It's not going to be verbatim. I don't have that off the top of my head. Let me just quote him right now and just not say anything that he said. But it was when he was talking about
Caroline.
Yeah, basically. Where's my arrows, please? So it was the fact that Harry was staying at this hotel room. No, basically he wasn't annoyed as much that he was missing. He was sort of like, look, I'm missing. I'm not going well. Things aren't going good. But what sort of hits him a bit more is the fact that him not playing well affects other people. And that was just something that you don't really think about from his perspective, where he's saying, look, I miss, and all of a sudden, the team's not doing well and it's more pressure on them. And then, I'm in the rooms after the game and you can see it on mum and dad's face. And then, Ash Hansen has to wear it. And Vossi has to wear it, and he's getting pestered about it in every single press conference. But it's not something that Vossi can truly control. It really has nothing to do with Vossi. It's just the fact that he himself is not being able to execute in front of goal, and that was something that you probably don't get that kind of insight through anything else. I thought that was such an interesting thing, and I was listening to it while I was at work, and God, it was just like, I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm getting emotional about thinking about how much that's kind of affecting him. And
seriously,
part of it makes you go down I wish he didn't care about that, because maybe that's compounding all of this and making it worse, that he's taking on more inside his head. But I don't know. All we can do is get around him and hope that if we can just give him some easier looks in front of goal, that it just makes it easier. If we're not giving him these 40-meter on the angle, that's hard to get your confidence up if you're having to nail these lower percentage kicks. So it was good to hear from him. It's good to hear that he's taking that responsibility. And I guess it's just a nice bit of insight that you don't tend to get from all the players out there, because he didn't have to talk about it. But the fact that he has, I think, shows a lot about his character.
I'm glad he did. I think, to me, it feels like a good idea to do that rather than just be in the shadows and then week after week it just not work. And I had that saddened feeling kind of earlier in the week that you were feeling, where it's like, you just think about how many people are giving him advice.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of it warranted, mostly unwarranted. It's just, it would be, from where my opinion, it's probably consuming him. So that's why it would bring me nothing but joy for it to turn around this week.
100%. And he did mention and saying that so many people will be probably coming out wanting, like the host of it, who I honestly I've no idea who it is, so I wish I could say his name, but he was alluding to, different people wanting to come out and give him advice, and other former footballers wanted to tell him how to kick it. And he sort of again just said like, well, then you start to get so many different voices, and like you're listening to all that information, like it's just going to make it worse. All he's doing is trying to focus on what he can control and things he can repeat. So it's obviously just going down to his routine, and I can take this amount of steps, I can have this action, and those are sort of the things. So the less clouding his judgment, the better. But looking at what sorry.
I was just going to say, do you think we'll see any role changes this week with that kind of thing, with Pitt going out, so TDK doing more ruck? Like, do you think they'll try and change it, or are we going to see the same kind of thing?
As far as Harry in his position, I feel like he has to stay in that forward line. But I hope, like we said on that match review last week or earlier in this week, there's so many days, who knows what's going on, but that I would prefer him pushing out a bit more and allowing Charlie a bit more space in that forward line rather than crowding it. I think that's just a simple tweak, but
same.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be down there. I wouldn't be doing anything crazy like some are suggesting, like, should he play more ruck? Should he be doing this? I feel like then you're starting to complicate things, and then I just feel like that's not going to help his confidence if now he's doing a new role and you're just taking him away from things. It's like, stick to what he does. Eventually, he should get out of it, is what I'm hoping for. But what I'm looking to see this week, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. So I had one. It's spread out into two, just from what we ended up chatting about before we started this podcast. But the main thing is, and maybe it's a bit off what I had last week. It's building off that, and this is like changing the midfield for me with some injuries, with some poor form in right now. I just want to see Vossi try something different. And I feel like we need to spice something up, and I'm just wanting to see basically, something new. And it doesn't have to be a big change or for a long time. I'm not asking for Gov to be in the midfield full time, something ludicrous. But I floated on the selection table, which is a bit of a nice little show that happens on Pommy and Oz that I am lucky to be featured on every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. on Pommy's YouTube channel, where we basically go through what would be our team changes and debate it and pick a side together. And one thing I was sort of floating in these discussions, which is kind of something I'd love to get your thoughts on in particular, is, the possibility of Assad going through the midfield for 2 minutes, whether it's a CBA or just pushing him up closer to the ball, because it feels like we need to unlock this man. And I don't know whether he can do it, but surely it can't hurt knowing we've got so many other halfbacks that can run and break off, that even for just a 2-minute spell, you go, hey, Sardi, we'll push up around the stoppage, see if you can get the ball on the outside. And does that help unlock things? So I don't know necessarily what it is. I'm happy to throw another out to get your thoughts on it. Is Jordan Boyd, really good user of the football.
Love it.
Really good runner. Do we give him some time on the wing? Do we give him even maybe half forward, getting those guys who can use the ball well, the good ball users, higher up the field to enter the ball inside 50? Some of these little tweaks, something you could see for 5 minutes to change something up, knowing half forward's an issue, midfield's an issue. Because looking at this week, I know we don't have as many changes with Chera getting off, with Cripper looking like he's good to go. But last year, back end of the season, we had a lot of injuries. Doc went in there, Setterfield played in the midfield. We saw Durden high half forward getting around the stoppages. We tried some different things, and now we're starting to play Doherty in the midfield because of it. Do you see us doing anything different around the midfield this week? And what are your thoughts on like a Sardi or a Boydie getting around different areas of the field this week against Melbourne?
I love it. I love discussions like this. You know that I'm a big advocate for trying things out like this, and I wish we were a team that did it more. I think the selection that we've got, it's inevitable that we're going to see something. The fact that Curnow is out too, like, otherwise it's just it's Cripps, Chera, and Kennedy and Doherty, basically. I can't see it being just those four. Oh, and Walshy, of course. Yeah, true. Nah, I think there will be an opportunity for someone through there. The Sard thing, I love it. Like, it's just, maybe there's something that I'll say I'm missing in this, where there's something detrimental that can happen by giving a player a completely different role for 10 minutes. Maybe there's something I'm missing there. But for me, it's like, if it's a big failure, well, then you just go back to what we were doing.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah, and
I love it.
And I totally understand at the moment. It feels like there's this connection issue. We're not nailing the game plan. So there is a part of this that goes, do you keep going at it, trying things the same way and hoping that eventually it clicks? And maybe there's an element of that to what Vossi's doing and why we haven't seen massive, massive changes, because he's going, look, I believe this will work with this personnel. It just needs time. There's an element of that, but there is also times where you go, well, do you just not go completely away from what you're doing, but just tiny tweaks? And like you're saying, what's one centre bounce with Sard in there? Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, no. All of a sudden they get the clearance and it's, okay, well, Sard, just walk 10 meters that way and now you're back in your position. Like, it's nothing drastic that I think would cause any ridiculous harm. It's not as if we're saying, hey, Sard, spend the whole game there. And you for whatever reason, we can't change him back to his old position. They're little things. And so let me know as well in the comments on this, if you're watching on YouTube or on socials at Navy Blue Corner, because if you guys have any little tweaks or positional changes, anything like that you'd like to see, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. This isn't just a simple me just trying to get engagement on things. Like, I genuinely am honestly struggling to find different avenues for this team of plays we can play through different positions to get the best out of things. So it feels like we're in this rut of we're doing the same thing. I don't know what else we can do. So if you've got any ideas, let us know, because I'm keen to really have this discussion in the comments and on socials just to see if we can find any ideas for ourselves. But I do have another little what I want to see, but I'm kind of going to bury it later in this episode because it works well with the bit of opposition analysis. So speaking about the listeners, let's go straight into the listener questions. I assume a lot are going to be onto the team changes, so it can be around the two. And if you want to get your listener questions in, all you got to do is get over to Twitter, because that's where we tend to do it, at Navy Blue Corner. And if you're not on Twitter and you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on wherever that is not Twitter, and you want your questions in, harass us, because I'm lazy and I tend to mainly funnel a lot through Twitter, occasionally on Instagram. But I know there's a few that are on Facebook, that are on some other places that probably want their questions in. So feel free to
get an email
us
from time to time.
We've got an email at, well, it's not an at beforehand, the Navy Blue Corner at gmail.com. There's an ad in there somewhere. All of that's in the show notes. So if you ever need to find it, nice and easy to click through. But let us know. You can always just send them in, and hopefully I'll remember and they'll find their way in the run sheet. But they're mainly on Twitter, so get them there. What have the people asked this week, Lockie?
Super bad. Heard of him? Will we kick more goals than behinds this week? Confident? It's been 3 weeks in a row, according to my records, of more behinds than goals.
This is the interesting thing. Should we need Sir Swamp almost on this podcast so I can throw random stuff at him. Can we get him on as a producer, as like the Jamie? Pull this up for me, because I'd like to know how common it is, and maybe this is just dumb from me, for you to always have your goals over behinds, because it feels like it should normally, but I reckon a lot of the time you miss so many opportunities anyway. But this week it's desperate. We are desperate for it. And if it happens, maybe this is a hot take, I reckon if our goals are more than behinds, we can't possibly lose this game of footy.
Ian. I like it.
You like it? There we go.
I do like it. I was going to try and throw a wild stat back at you, but I can't really see anything. So let's just roll with that.
Let's go for it.
From Dave H. Is Vossi feeling the heat yet? Or is he pleased with our efforts across the back half? Across the back half?
Is that a defense? Is that where you're going with that question? Or just
he could mean the back half, or maybe across the first half of the season? Maybe he's meaning.
We'll go with everything, I reckon.
Yeah. What do you think Vossi's feeling at the moment? Did you watch? I haven't had a chance to watch his presser today. Did you see it?
Today he was a bit more chipper than after the game. What I was somewhat pleased with in his press conference after the game was, I believe, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this as well, Lockie, he seemed a little bit more prickly. He seemed a little bit I don't know, as if he wasn't pleased. He wasn't just coming out with a straight face, looking all for the positives, even though he did say them. There was parts of it where he felt more agitated, that he wasn't pleased, and that he was maybe wearing a different face to the media, but you could kind of see that he wasn't as happy.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the one this week, he was a lot more the Vossi we probably know. And I reckon he obviously would understand this, that with all the pressure, you hear the noise, the media come for you, and you hear the stuff with the board, with Matheson not being happy. Obviously, he's gone. We don't have to worry about that toxic man anymore. But there's always rumblings of things in the media because we're such a massive club that you'd have to know that you're on, as soon as you sign up to be at this Carlton Football Club, you're on borrowed time. The contract means nothing because if you don't perform,
sure,
there's more pressure than most other clubs. Take, I don't know, the Western Bulldogs, for instance. Nothing against the doggies this time. I'm not going to go hard at them. But, if Bevo misses finals for a couple of years, there's just not going to be that much noise on it because the media, unfortunately, doesn't sell as much as Carlton. So he's definitely feeling the heat. And about the defenders, it feels like he was happier about them this week, if we're going to talk about that. So I don't know. Hopefully that starts to turn, but he's got to try and get us out of this, basically.
Totally. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting to the defender chat when we go through the team. And it's about that time because our remaining questions are all about one man. And I bet you cannot guess who that man is. He wears the number 2. His name is Patrick. From Richard, I've been a massive critic of Dow in the past, but seriously, he should have got a chance to prove himself. And from PJC, at what point do we just give Dow a game? Surely we can't be any worse off with him in the team in comparison to some of the others selected. It's interesting.
Well, yes. I know this segment tends to be a lot more Ask Ian, but I will need to get your thoughts on this one in particular. Because, look, I think I've been very consistent on my Dow chatter, and I think you're similar to me, I believe.
I think so.
Maybe not, but I don't think Dow's going to be amazing. Don't think he's going to be a superstar, but it's just at some stage you have to reward him getting like 40, 30 touches every single week. I know that your rhetoric, and this is why I love doing the podcast with you, because you have such great insights in the trying to get different little things where you're going, well, look, there's obviously something that he's not doing, which is why he's not in this team. There's a chance that every single week they're saying, Dowie, we need you to do this. We need you to do this. And he's not doing it. Now, I know that kind of goes against some of the press conferences where Voss kind of did say, I think it was Voss, where he said, look, can't do much more, but there's so many other players ahead of him. So maybe that goes against that. But for me, I think when Hewitt goes out, if that's the midfield that they want, who's the Dow replacement? Sorry, who's the Hewitt replacement? It's Dow. So that's it for me. If out goes an inside midfielder, in comes one. And when the midfield isn't going amazingly, why not change something up? I don't think you're getting anything ridiculously worse with Dow in there. I know his defensive pressure isn't amazing. The two-way running isn't amazing. But what he's been doing really, really well in the twos every single time I see him play is his clearance work. He's a clearance monster. I know the jump, VFL to AFL is heaps, but we're struggling with clearances a little bit and getting... Because the stats there, but we're not getting really clear, I don't know, yardage. It feels like they're all sloppy. We're not getting it that. It's not to our advantage. Whereas what I see from Dow, they tend to be quite solid clearances. So I don't know. For me, this was the week to do it. If Chera did get suspended and it was upheld, that's when I would have been really interested, because I'll be honest, I assumed with these team changes this week, they would have just gone Hewitt out, Ed Kerno in, and then it would have really taken a Chera or a Cripper as well on top of that for us to see Dow. But I mean, it definitely was in my changes this week. It's disappointing that he's not ever going to be really given a go, just because, I don't know, I wanted to see it, and I wanted to see at least 2-3 weeks of it, just for like, what's the worst that could happen? He's going to be gone at the end of the season. We've seen Liam Jones turn his career around. We just, surely he deserves an opportunity, because I don't think he's really got that over the last few years. It's been like, here's 1 week. Oh, that's it. You're out. I don't know. What's your kind of take on the Paddy Dow? It feels like we talk about it a fair bit, but where are you sitting at the moment?
we do talk about it a fair bit. That's because a lot of our listeners are very passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with everything you're saying. It's like, and I agree that I talk more than anyone about the jump from VFL to AFL and how like that just you can't just say that any player will replicate it.
Yeah.
But then again, a player will be in a different role. Like he is the number one guy in that team. So we need to give him an opportunity, I think, to see what he's going to do in this team where he is at the bottom of the ranks in that midfield. Like it's just, and I also understand that when things are going super well and we are really healthy, then we're not going to mess with something like this when there's clearly things going on.
Yeah.
I agree with you. This would have been so much more interesting if, and I'm fucking glad that it isn't that case.
Yes.
Cripps and Chera are out. Kennedy, there was whispers that he was sore. It was like suddenly our whole midfield bar Walsh is
It's
out.
gone.
Then it's like they literally have no choice unless Lemmy's going to.
And Carroll's injured, and it's like, you had no one else.
Exactly. So that's why with these changes that have ended up having to happen, I'm not that surprised that it's not him. Even though Curno's not in, like you said. But it's interesting that he's an emergency. I don't even know if he's been an emergency.
Not often. Not often.
So do you think he's going to be the sub? They're not going to make Ed Curnow the sub,
I
are
don't
they?
think so. Oh, they will. Ed Curnow, lock him in for the sub. But, I mean, it's interesting, and I don't want to touch on it for too much longer, but I will, because that's just how it happens. But Dow, I feel as if he does get a run, which I think he deserves at some stage, part of it is also as well for me around we're going to lose him for nothing at the end of the year. Yes. If he shows something at AFL level, would you think that maybe allows us to get a third rounder for him? Like you look at the Setterfield deal. We basically gave them a third round pick like this in the last draft, and we got one for this year. That was horrific. You would have imagined we could have got a third rounder at least for him or something.
Yeah.
Now, Paddy Dow's value is worth a lot less than Setterfield, particularly Setterfield had some really good last few games of the season. So, like, we're probably going to lose Dow for nothing. If you play him a little bit, there's a chance you do start to get some value up for the end of the season. But I kind of, to go the devil's advocate for Michael Voss, and probably this is the real why he's not playing him. We're down on form. We're not playing well. Vossi's kind of coaching for his career a fair bit till the end of this season, you'd imagine. Real must-win game this week. I reckon Vossi's just sitting there going, I can't trust you, and putting you out there knowing I'm kind of coaching for my life going forward. And that's probably as simple as it is. I don't agree with it, but it's probably it. And this is kind of my week now where I'm going, well, if he doesn't play, if he was not named this week, I don't think he's ever going to get named. Unless there's, more injuries, like we're saying, it's everyone's injured and there's no other option. But yeah, if Ed Curnow's there, if Jack Carroll's fit, which I know he's not at the moment, I think they would probably all be ahead of him. And it's frustrating. Was there any other listener questions around the changes?
No, let's chat them. Let's
chat about them. So the changes were, oh, don't worry about it, mate. The changes this week, Chincotta was in for the injured Newman. Young, I guess you could say, comes in for George Hewitt in a weird roundabout way. Silvani in for an injured Pitt. O'Brien in for an injured Hollins. And Fisher in for an injured Durden. So there's a lot of forced changes. All of them forced changes. Would love to hear what you would have done for all of those guys, and if there was anyone else that you would have taken out of this team as well.
I hadn't actually written my own changes to this. Like, this on paper is making sense to me. O'Brien, I need to hear yours first. O'Brien is the name out of those five that definitely excites me the least.
Yeah.
That's probably where it would have been Dow for me. What did you come with? I saw a bit of the selection table, but where were you at on a Thursday?
Yeah, so mine normally sometimes changes from the Tuesday to the Thursday. Tends to be that selection table episode. I hear some really good arguments, and then I go, okay, I'm changing my opinion, which is, I like to pride myself on that because I'm willing to put the ego aside and say, look, maybe I was wrong. I'm happy to reevaluate. But this week, I stuck to my guns, really. Chincotta was in for Newman.
Yep.
Silvani in for Pitt because they're like just like for like for me. Beautiful. Like we don't have another ruckman. Silvani comes in, plays half forward. There you go. Fisher, I actually had in for Durden before the injury was announced. I just thought Durden's form hasn't been great. Fisher comes in. It's where I made that change. But I wanted Fish to play a bit more midfield. Like we touched on earlier in this episode, different names through there. Mm-hmm. Have him playing almost like a 40-60 split midfield forward was my look. And then the last change that then, for Hollands, I did have O'Brien as well. The big argument there is, does Binns come in? And I think Binns has better form. My worry around it was simply, God, this is such a high-pressure game. It's so must-win for us. Yes, Binns has been in better form, and maybe this is the trial by fire that you needed. I was just a little bit worried about his development. That is throwing him into a game like this the best thing for his development, knowing how much high pressure there is on it? Or is that just AFL? Is that where you just go, no, this is what you're on the list for. You come into here. Whereas I think O'Brien's just that safer option. Spoiler alert, I had Binns as my sub because I thought he's going to play. I want him potentially as that guy going forward. So this kind of alleviates that pressure of, well, you get to come into the game for a quarter. The heat is taken out of it because there's less expectation on your performance. And when you do come on, you're fresher than everyone else. So you get a bit more of an advantage. And then that way, it's a bit maybe of an audition to then have him start the next week. But there's, I guess, less pressure on it. It's not the best way to debut, but it was probably the best thing for us, getting someone that can impact forward of the ball and, I guess, take the sting out of it. And then my last change was Hewitt out, Dow in as a simple replacement. I did not have Lewis Young back into this team. Thoughts?
So I'm just curious that, I mean, you put the idea out there about like Boydie or someone like that getting a go on the wing. You don't feel like that could have been a better fit, like Akers and Cottrell as your two wings, and then let's try someone else as that kind of third guy. I'm just so down on Lob and feel like one of these other guys could maybe give us something more. I don't know. He's just that guy for me at the moment.
All I could think of was us watching that game in the stands at Marvel on Good Friday against North, where there was that, I reckon, 20-minute patch where every time he got the ball, it was just the most disastrous thing that could have happened. It wasn't just like a fumble. It was worst case scenario every single time, which was pretty average. And look, I totally understand that. And it could have allowed you to be flexible, maybe do something else elsewhere. I guess it was just sort of my safe option. I think with so many other injuries, there wasn't a lot else I could do. My argument with if Durden wasn't injured was, okay, keep Durden in the team potentially. But I don't know. I find the Lewis Young one interesting because
that was my next point.
They don't have a lot of tools down forward, and less so with Tom McDonald out of there. It seemed to work so well last week. So we brought an extra one in there. Does that mean that maybe they see Kemp? I don't know. It baffles me a little bit. I'm not too sure what matchups they're looking for, who this alleviates. Does that give Kemp more a small lockdown? Does that work for you? Maybe a Boyd moves up further. Maybe a Cotter or is his Doc full-time midfield? Someone else move into a position. It's going to be interesting to see it happen on field.
Is it to try and unlock more intercept game, like from one of these guys? Maybe it's super interesting. It's
particularly when Young played forward in the VFL last week. Young played like as a forward for most of the game, so it's like, what do we?
And Sauce is a defender now, apparently too. So we've got 10 defenders basically named.
The only thing I can think of, and because this was one of my questions was, do we try anything different with the rucks? Knowing that Pitt's now out for a while, De Koning's the number one. Obviously, Sauce comes in and he's been the second ruck, but we hate him in there and we prefer him as a bit more of that forward role. Is this Lewis Young coming in to ruck and defend?
It's possible.
Or is he rucking forward? Did they play him in the forward line going, he's our new forward now? Is this the something different that Vossi's going for?
That
worries me. The
That
ruck
feels
defense
hard
is fine. Everything
yeah.
else is a bit gross. Because it wasn't that bad. I can't remember what games it transpired in. Maybe it was, I think it was that North game. It was something around there where he was rucking and then going into defense. And it was a lot better for Silvani, that's for sure. Oh,
totally.
Was it the West Coast game as well? Yeah,
Maybe
West Coast game where
there was one.
He was able to actually, I think it was the same. I'm all over the place. My mind is moving too far. It was the St Kilda game and the West Coast game where 2 weeks in a row, Young was taking the ruck. Silvani was mainly forward. And in those games, it was something like he kicked like 5 goals or 6 goals and actually played really well. I'm hoping that we can maybe not see Silvani ruck somehow.
Totally. I'm an endorser of the Young in the ruck with a bit of a backline skew. It's just an interesting thing this week as well. I mean, not that we had any choice over this with Pitt, but coming up against Gawn and Grundy is
horrifying.
Like the biggest name kind of duo of big fellas that you can come up against. So another good opportunity for TDK to prove himself. But yeah, I don't know. You didn't have him in your changes. I wouldn't have been surprised if Young didn't come back in with how the backline worked last week, which was like our highlight, I guess.
Probably. It was best as systems work. The rumors of the Wiedering Young, I guess Wieders maybe not preferring him being in there, always interesting. Yeah. Obviously, you don't know how much that is always true. But looking at it, they're not the worst changes this week. So much was forced. No. Dow's obviously the one I wanted, but I'm keen to see what they do. Talking about the rucks, is there anything else you can see them trying to do for these? I think it was 2 or so weeks they've said he's out with his fractured hand. Who knows? Could be longer. I don't trust anything to go with our injury reports at this stage. Obviously got that bye coming up, so it sort of pushes out how long he would be out for. But knowing what we've got, knowing some people talking about, does Harry go into the ruck? Is there anything else you can see to alleviate De Koning, knowing that he's going to be the number one? And on De Koning, to throw a couple of more questions at you, which I love to stack the questions.
I know.
How do you feel like this is going to go? It's just so because I know I'll forget it. And it's like, how do you think that De Koning's going to go for this stretch, knowing he's out of contract? And is this something to maybe allow him some time to be that full-time ruck going forward?
Yeah, well, he's never shown us a whole lot of consistency. Like he always shows us the flashes. So it's hard to say what this period will bring for him. I mean, in terms of other guys, though, nothing compelling to me. Like there's obvious names that you can throw out there. You can be like, well, why can't? That's one thing I know is it's not going to be either of those two coming in. So it's like, if you're taller than 190 centimeters, could you like give this a crack? Like, could Brody Kemp give it a crack? That
he could. He definitely could.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like any other names apart from really those three. I'm not a fan of the Harry thing. I think there's better ways that we can try and get him into form. I'm all about getting him up the field, but making him clash knees with Max is not high on my agenda.
And the Silvani thing, like as much as we haven't loved it, if we kind of know that we're going to lose the tap, basically going against Gawn and Grundy, it's not the worst thing for him to be around the stoppage and try to exploit them by getting another man around it. But I don't know. The more we've seen it, the less it's been good. I feel like when he first burst onto the scene as this second ruckman, it worked better around the stoppages and it's almost got progressively worse. So yeah, I think I'm with you where knowing they don't have the tools, maybe this kind of allows us to have Young in there for longer. Would it massively surprise you if we almost go Young longer in the ruck and De Koning more ruck forward split? I just thought about that then, and knowing that Western Bulldogs almost use that for a bit, is that a lever we pull?
Oh, I could definitely see that. I think, well, there's just no way. Can we have all those 4 guys on the field at the same time in the back line?
I don't know.
Feels like it's not going to happen.
I'm looking for every outcome that isn't Sauce in there because I just want to see him forward because the small sample size this season, he's been all right. And I kind of want to see what he's like down there.
Sub?
Let's talk about the sub. There are 4 guys it could be. There's 2 guys I definitely don't want it to be. Who would you choose as the sub out of Fogarty, Dow, Ed Curnow, and Lockie Plowman? And again, if you're listening to this, watching it, let us know who your sub would be. But Lockie, who's yours?
Let's say that the emergencies were Plowman and Curnow and another player. Who would the third player alongside those two be to make it the easiest sub ever for you? Like, who's the third least likely to be in the team if you have Curnow and Plowman? You know what I mean?
Jeez, it'd probably be them Murkov, Harry Lemmy, Hudson O'Keefe.
Yeah. You're a big ruck guy, aren't you?
Or you could just say right now, you'd be like, yeah, Corey Durden.
You'd rather
because he physically cannot play
injured.
He physically cannot play there, so you're like, well, it's got to be someone else. But yeah, I think it'd have to be one of those. Everyone else is a bit more, But Plowman, it's just, it's not appetizing. Is the nice way to put it.
With Fogarty and Dow as the choices, I personally would say Dow, but I would be happy with either. I would be happy with either, and it's not going to be either of them.
I still don't love the options because, my gripe with Vossi over the sub is we don't try anything. Teams always try to get someone with a bit of pace that can impact the game, and we keep going this, well, who's a big-bodied mid? He's almost going, we've got too many in the team. I'm too scared to drop them. I'll make them the sub, and therefore there's no news story on it. And
but I could
probably
see,
I
could see Dow being the sub and having a 5 clearance fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And it being an actually impactful thing, though. Like, Ed Curnow is not going to have that blistering fourth quarter, which I think Dow could.
I think Dow, profile-wise, makes the most sense out of that. And knowing that Hewitt's out, there could be an opportunity that maybe they are actually thinking here. I doubt it, but they could be going, okay, we'll get rid of the inside mid, try something different. Maybe Fisher gets more time. Maybe someone else does. And if it's not working, we've got Dow or Ed Curnow as that guy that can come in later if we need to bolster the midfield.
Yes.
Don't think that that's it, but for me, that's why it'd almost be Fogarty he does something else where he's the thing is, none of these are amazing, but he plays a bit more small forward. He can tackle. He brings pressure. He can play a bit in midfield. He can kind of go on the wing. He offers probably a little bit more out of those. You can put him in different places. Dowd's kind of like, okay, well, he has to be midfield. But it's going to be Ed Curnow, or they go crazy and go Plowman so they can potentially move Doherty full-time mid.
Yeah. I'd put my money on Ed.
It's not exciting. Not exciting.
It isn't.
I'll quickly go through a bit of an Oppo analysis. It's not big this week.
We love that.
Because she's just, I don't want to keep talking about a lot. And we've already gone for 45 minutes. And that's kind of what I was hoping this episode would go for. Because we went so big on the other one. So I'll try to speed through this. But look, Melbourne aren't going too well at the moment, even though they're high on the ladder. They're doing all right. But their season at the moment, if you kind of break it down, because I know the chatter I've heard from Melbourne supporters is that they're not really happy with their season so far, which is interesting because I'd take their spot at the moment. But I'll go through their game so far. They beat the Dogs quite easily to kick things off. Beautiful. Lost to the Lions away. Fair shout. Beat the Swans. Beat West Coast. Lost to Essendon. Beat Richmond. Beat North Melbourne.
Everyone does.
They just beat Gold Coast by 5 points.
Gross.
They beat Hawthorn. Then they've lost to Port away. Now they've lost to Freo. So pretty much the Freo game is the only one, I guess, that you could say that they definitely probably should have won. But it looks at the moment like they're just beating the bottom teams and then losing to the teams that are a bit better than them, sort of at the moment. The more contenders. They haven't had the hardest draw. A lot of that's been pretty simple. We kind of have as well to an extent, but it's interesting when you look at it. It kind of makes you go, okay, maybe Melbourne haven't been amazing so far this year. And the issue for them right now that I see as potentially a positive, maybe potentially a negative, is talking about their tall targets up forward. No McDonald, no Ben Brown. I think he's fit. I think it's an emergency, so not sure why he's not getting selected. I clearly have not seen enough Melbourne to understand that one. Maybe he's coming back from an injury. Who knows? But they're tall targets at the moment. Jacob Van Ruin, who's been not too bad so far. They've also got one of Grundy and Gawn that'll be down there. They've brought in Joel Smith. Watch him have the greatest game ever, because it always happens. An unknown quantity comes in and plays a blinder. But they don't have exceptional tools, which gives me a bit of confidence. But then gives me no confidence in the fact that they're going to be looking out for their smaller players in this. Because you look at the goals this season, you can maybe call him a small, maybe you can call him a tall, but Bailey Fritsch, 22 goals has been their most this season. Then they've got what St Kilda had, what Brisbane had. They've got this crop of smalls and kick goals. You can say Collingwood as well into that. Cozzy Pickett with 18. Kate Chandler, who's come into things at 15. And then you got even like a Spargo with 9. Tom Sparrow at 6. So they've got a wide variety of guys that can go down there and kick goals. So it's kind of the smalls that we have to look out for a lot more. So I'm really hoping, I guess, for the way that we play things, knowing we've got the extra tall, that we try to intercept and stop their entry a lot more, knowing we can kind of exploit that. And this is what do I want to see this week? Can we exploit the opposition in an area that they have outs in? They don't have McDonald, don't have Ben Brown, don't even have Clayton Oliver. They've dropped James Harm, so they don't have the inside bulls to an extent. They've still clearly got a really good midfield, Petrarca, Viney, Brayshaw. I've got some good players around there, Langdon as well on the outside. But they've got some clear outs. Let's exploit it. And I want to see this. I don't want to see these beautiful short leads being able to hit up all their smalls. I want to see us just Gov, Young, Wiedering, Kemp, just intercepting for days. You don't get a look in because we're able to finally peel off. And conversely, I don't want to see May and Lever absolutely dominate and intercept for fun like a Darcy Moore did, knowing that that's their strength in defense, knowing how poor we've entered it inside 50. I just don't want to see them have a field day out there. That's my simple analysis. I'm not going in deep this week, but it's that they're not going too well. We have a chance to exploit it, but they're kind of coming into this game obviously not as much to a degree, but they're looking at this game going, look, we're not playing well. This is the week that we need to switch on.
Yep. They're due for a win.
So it'll be an interesting battle to see who comes in with a bit more heat, knowing that both teams definitely will be needing a dub in this game.
It seems like every team we play this season is coming in off a big loss or a couple of losses. It's always good. Yeah, I don't know. Looking at that team, they've obviously been a team over the last few years that we've dreaded coming up against each time. And I don't know, why am I the most confident this time as I have been in years with the form that we're in? There's just something about
you might have fumbled into, I shouldn't say fumble. That's too harsh. That's being way too harsh. You have
How dare you?
Absolutely gone into a beautiful segue for me. It's like the run sheet, because speaking of the confidence, I just want to get your gauge on a couple of things that happened this week. Obviously, the first being Adam Chera and our lawyers. At what stage
confidence, baby,
winning at the tribunal, the amount of times we've done it, once we've done it 10 times, or is it like, when you go to your local coffee place and like every 6th coffee's free, every 6th tribunal wins 4 points for Carlton, because this is the best thing that we have going for us at the moment. And it galvanizes the fans big time. And then obviously
it really does.
The big news of Cripper, or maybe you can't even call it news because it wasn't. Caroline Wilson going big in we're at different hotel rooms and there's more disarray. And then Cripper, which I did not expect, coming out on the old Instagram with a big jab. Maybe it's a haymaker almost, complete knockout punch to Caroline Wilson, defending himself and basically telling him, what I liked the most was there was 3 words in there. Let's go 4 words if I can count.
I think I know what they are.
This is what got me fired up, because I've been calling out for someone to just show me some passion, someone to not just give me the media training. Yeah, we're just working on it. We're trying every week as it comes. Like, that's boring. I want to show me you care. And he's gone, it pisses me off. And I'm like, holy shit. Cripper's swearing on the Insta. This is unbelievable. But like, yeah, for him to come out and be like, look, I can cop it. I can cop form. But when someone questions my character and commitment to this team, it pisses me off. I'm like, where has this been, Paddy? Where has this been? I was big this week, and our man Soj clipped a beautiful soundbite of me telling Tom Brown to fuck off. Which, if that's, I was worried when I saw something get clipped. I was like, oh God, what have I said? But when it was that, I was like, oh, that's good.
You said worse things that episode.
I said worse things in that I thought were going to come out. But
yeah,
I was so happy that, Cripper's come out and showed a bit of passion, showed a bit of something. What was your take on it, and how did that kind of make you feel for the rest of the week?
Yeah, it's made it a very Carlton-y week. Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't hear Footy Classified. We were too busy recording this beautiful show of ours, which I hope
it's a good thing.
Carlton people.
So I'm trying to make it go longer, so we definitely don't have to listen to it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of two examples of the way that the fans have been galvanized this week. Like you said, it's a shame that it's not happening with the wins, but we want the fire. Give us that fire. How many of these dangerous tackles have gotten a week or 2 weeks?
Well, and then we come in
and they're like, you're right, actually. That's very fucking persuasive of you.
We're the one in like 17-1. Well, I loved because we were live on the selection table, and I was like reading through it, and I'm going, oh no, we've argued that he's got long hair. That's our argument. His argument, he's got long hair, so it looks worse, and he's big. He's an ogre. It's like, well, Jesus, we're not getting off with that. And somehow, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, let's listen to it. This guy knows what he's saying. But yeah, I think, and the ending quote there from Cribbo just being like, I can't wait for Friday night, #baggers. It's just, the fact that he had to put in there, like, Friday, be there. Like, that's what I took, and that's what kind of got me excited. And look, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to go too far and get my hopes up, but I just want to see him fired up, because when Paddy Cripps is angry, that's when he plays his best footy.
Goat.
So I want to see him absolutely monster this game Friday night. And that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited. And even, it was interesting. I'll touch on this slightly, but Vossi in his press conference, I just had a couple of quotes for you here that I thought were interesting, which was he said, over the weekend, there were good conversations that have been had, some solutions about what's needed moving forward for us. And he then said that speaks to strong leadership, and that, what was addressed was needed to be addressed and has been addressed. So I guess that was kind of interesting that he sort of did say that, solutions have been made, which is obviously, it's so final, which was a weird thing for him to say, where, well, we haven't seen the solutions yet, so who knows if they work, but clearly something's happening. Clearly they're confident that potentially something that maybe has been an issue off the park with the group has been strides moving forward to it. Do you have much on those little quotes out of context that I've thrown there for you?
Yeah. I mean, that does feel like different language, though, than what we're used to with him, right? Like, it
felt a little different.
Yeah. So, I guess, I'm just wondering what we're going to be sitting here on Monday talking about. Like, are we going to be like, I don't mean to put these things out into the universe, but are we going to be like, where was it, Cripper? Or where was it, Vossi?
Yeah. I told us the fire was there.
Like, that would just be so disappointing if we get amped up for that all week and then it's like, it's just not there.
Yeah. I don't want to see us come out flat to this game after everything that could have possibly happened to galvanize us. Because I know what Melbourne fans will be feeling right now. They'll be being like, of course we've got to have Carlton this week.
For sure.
And what have they copped? Big loss. Harry Mackay can't kick in front of goal. There's board turmoil. They've gotten, like, Matheson's kicked off. He's yelling at everyone in the change rooms. Oh, Chera gets off at the bloody thing. Now Cripper's copped it this week. Everything feels like is building towards this is where Carlton come out and get the win. So that's making me confident that I know that Melbourne supporters are shitting it.
Love it.
We just need to see at this stage. I'm sick of
getting
getting my hopes up over these little things and trying to read it in the tea leaves. I'll throw you this because this is funny, and maybe this should have been saved for a Hall of Fame, but I want to mark it right now because look, I'm not a spiritual person. I'm not this at all. This is funny. You'll enjoy this because I don't believe in much, but I was scrolling through TikTok and all of a sudden I came across like crystal talk, the crystals and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And there was this Jesus-looking fella with the beard, with the long hair, staring me very sexually. I was getting a bit creeped out into the camera lens, and he's being like, I'm going to heal you. I'm going to get rid of all the negative energies in your life. You're going to be cured with this crystal. Now, I stuck through this for about 5 to 6 minutes. If there's whatever the cap is on how long TikToks can go, this man hit it. Because I'm there as he's going through the crystals, doing these ones with it. It was something else. He was telling me the Archangel Michael is going to protect me and be my shield away from the negativity. And the whole time, I'm sitting there going, cure us. Get rid of the negative energies. This is for Carlton. This isn't just me. Get rid of this negativity. We're winning the flag in 2024. So if we happen to win the flag in 2024, I just want to marker this right now that it's because of that Jesus-looking man on my TikTok that cleansed me of any negative spirits and has put up a protective barrier around me in the Carlton Football Club. It was an odd experience, but this is what it's come to, people. That I'm now sitting through these TikToks because I got nothing else. I got nothing else about how we can turn this around at Carlton. So Lord knows what my algorithm's going to be now. I'm concerned about that, but you got to take one for the team.
Bookmark it, people.
Bookmark it,
1st of June, 23. The change. I'm ready.
It was horrific. And speaking of horrific, my footy tips this week, Lockie. Goodness me.
Oh my God, I'm going to be sick.
It was 3 out of 9. I'm happy I got the Gold Coast tip.
How many
I'm
was
happy
it?
I got the Gold Coast tip, but that wasn't enough.
So that was Richmond one, and then how many more did you get?
I got 2 more. They weren't good. I shouldn't have expected Richmond would bounce back with a new coach and get the job done. Everything else I'm happy to wear because I think they were the obvious tips, and it hasn't gone my way. But we're down again. The red arrow of doom is there on my screen. We're 173rd out of 309 in the lovely Carlton Cheer Squad footy tipping competition.
Yes.
Lockie,
we love the
back
cheer
over
squad.
to you. You're in the hot seat, and we need to get back into the pause.
We need to get cooking.
We need to be getting up into this top 100 because expectations at this stage say we're probably not winning this. So we've got to build for next year. Is where I'm seeing it. I think we've got to build for next year because there's no chance we're winning this thing.
So you've written us off for the Premiership and for the Footy Tips Premiership this in 2023. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, it's all about being strategic in your management and being able to admit we're not where we need to be and making corrective action to get us to where we need to be. Now, there's still a chance that we obviously could win this thing, but I reckon if we plan now, change our expectations, it's the only way it's going to happen. We're getting into this top 100 to start, but Lockie, I'm keen.
I suggest if we're going to do that, we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over, which is us being isolated in our views. And I propose that we come back together in round 12 and see how we can go.
Let's try. I'll be honest. I'm glad you said round 12 because I opened the intro with round 12. I had no idea what the round was, and that was a complete guess. So thank God I don't have to go back over that and change it. Lockie, I'll throw them to you, but you're allowed to phone a friend, get me involved, get the thoughts. Carlton versus Melbourne.
11 points, baby.
Let's get that done. Let's turn that up to 11. The Baggers are winning this one. Going to Saturday, Adelaide Oval, Port versus Hawthorn. Upset for you, or are you sticking fat? No, cool. Beautiful. We're not going crazy. They're up and about after their Saners win. Optus Stadium.
Yeah, this one.
Speaking of upsets, West Coast versus the Pies.
Doesn't this just have it written all over it?
They beat them last
They're
week.
haunted.
Could you imagine if they did it?
5 years on. Sheed
from the pocket.
From
Old mate's still getting held. He's still getting held. They're still crying about it. Get over it, you idiots.
Pies.
I can't convince you.
We'll clip this and just omit that bit if they win.
Yeah. Western Bulldogs versus Geelong.
You could talk me into this one.
Stadium. Let me find the teams here because I was weirdly feeling a Geelong bounce back.
You could talk me into a Cats win. $2.40 for the Cats.
My man Asava is out. Parfitt has been omitted. Gary Rowan in. They get to bring in Adam Treloar. Yeah, I think that's a doggies for me. What are you thinking?
All right. Yeah.
Oh, don't put it on me. See, this is why I didn't like it because now you're being like, oh, well, you tipped that one, and then it gets competitive again.
I'm comfortable.
What are you feeling?
Take me back to last week. Hang on, give me a second.
Yeah, that's all right.
This is important. This is important, people.
Geelong lost to, was that GWS last week at GMHBA Stadium?
Oh, and the Dogs lost as well to the Suns.
Whereas the Dogs lost to the Suns, and I tipped the Suns. That was a beautiful one by me. One of the only good tips that I'll ever have.
God, I think the Cats are going to win.
Let's go the Cats then. I'm happy to be swayed.
They're too good. They're too good.
I'm not gonna be here next week and abuse you. That's not what this is about.
This one I have no feel on whatsoever.
TIO Stadium throws this one anywhere. A Gold Coast can be salty, knowing this is the first time Rankin is going to be against it.
But doesn't that mean he's going to kick 8?
But Adelaide aren't that great away from home.
But it's Gold Coast without Took.
But Bailey Humphrey is an absolute god.
He is good at footy.
What are the changes? Brodie Smith in, Mitchell Hinge in. Yeah, no, not much.
No Constable.
Yeah.
You go.
Very 50 on this one. I'd love to go Gold Coast so I can support them while I watch it. The smart man would say Adelaide, but I don't know.
I think the smart man would also say Adelaide. So let's go Gold Coast.
Let's go Gold Coast. Is this where we just try to do the Hail Mary week and get it done?
It's Hail Mary.
GWS versus Richmond at Giants Stadium. I reckon GWS, man.
This is two disgusting Sunday games. Yeah, go Giants.
I reckon this is peak Sunday for me.
I'm not watching anything on Sunday.
This is on the couch for me. Marvel Stadium. Yeah, I'm not. I'll do anything else. I'll watch us round 23 last year rather than this. Marvel Stadium, Essendon versus North Melbourne. Who wins it? Any big changes this week?
They're such short odds, but
Tipper's out, Shields in, Sniv's back in, Orwin Davies back in.
Taron Thomas is back. Your man.
Oh, do not try to give that to me. No chance. Do not.
Oh, I don't trust
if I knew what the off-field things were, I would have never tried to,
No, I know.
Talk that man up. I can't believe he's. I would have assumed they were not allowed to play him at all, not to get serious on the podcast. But with what's been alleged with this man, which definitely happened allegedly for legal reasons, piece of shit should not be out there. Yeah.
You were saying Sniv deserved a 4-year deal based on what Pitt got on Monday. So
make it happen.
You're
able to see it this week.
And Rhett Montgomery. Do you remember Brett Montgomery?
That name rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you what that is or who that is.
I think he played for Port Adelaide back in the day.
Just
one of those. Let me have
that Brett. Is making sense to me.
Feels like a name that would.
Yeah, it was. Yes. Yeah, he's probably a premiership player, to be honest.
What?
Was he? Was he there?
Did he coach at Carlton?
Holy shit, he played for the Doggies twice.
He did. He was an assistant coach at Carlton. There you go.
Oh, God. What year?
The golden era. 07 to 10.
Wow. He's what would bring him down. There you go.
He's a South Gordon boy.
Tip. Can I have the tip? Actually, do not see. Oh no, that's the one that's gonna get spliced by Soj. Oh no.
What? Which bit?
I'm not saying it again. Oh,
I didn't get it. I
said, can I have the something?
And
it's not going to go down well. Oh, no.
Let's go for North. Let's go your man Taron to kick a few.
Stop saying my man. Stop.
I'm trying to get Soj to clip it.
Oh, this end of the podcast has not gone well for me. This has not gone well for me.
Yeah, no,
also, let's lock it in.
Good.
We've gone this long. I want to throw a dumb question towards you. The bye rounds. We've started it. It's bad for the supers. It's bad for the viewing because we're copying this week's fixtures. Yes. People are throwing it out there. People are saying, we'll just make it a 1 week bye. All the teams do something. I heard the lovely guys on Blue Abroad who do the rest talk about bring in the EJ Witten's legend game for the week, do something different. Do you have any thoughts about what you could do rather than splitting the buys over 3 rounds, making it a 1 week spectacular?
It's 4 rounds.
What would you have on footy wise to get us through that 1 week off everything? They won't do it because they need the ratings money, I assume. But if you could make it 1 week, what would you do instead?
I really wish you'd, allowed me to think about this for some time. That would have been good planning, and that's why we have run sheets. So I'm not going to give you anything good. I mean, I go straight to all-star game vibes, American sports. It's like, okay, well, not everybody gets a week off, but sorry, people tune in.
So it's over State of Origin, maybe? Would that be
State
something?
of Origin. I'm an advocate for just do it like that. Just do it all together.
No, I don't mean to throw you under the bus. It was kind of like sometimes.
No, I appreciate
to make diamonds, you need a bit of pressure, and that's what I was hoping.
I don't have anything good, but you must, or else you wouldn't have brought it up.
It's not that good, but it's the only thing I've ever thought is because I love the draft. Obviously, like, is this where you could try to build that up? Like looking at American sports, how big the draft is. It's such a massive thing, and they have so much, obviously, more coverage because of the college sports and everything.
Yep.
Interest feels like it grows every year in the AFL. Could this be that week where, with obviously the mid-season draft happening, where you get all the under-18s, because the under-18 championship starts this week. There's a game on Sunday. Already. Is this not where you do a bit of a carnival and make it a big event where you've got Metro versus Country, South Australia versus WA, the Allies, whoever? Like, have games going on throughout the weekend where you really highlight this. Try to make it something. Whether do you incorporate this with a Legends game as well? The past meets the future, and really building it up as this big event where you start to see who could be the next superstars of this game and moving that forward. I feel like there's something in this. I feel like State of Origin just will never work in our competition because the players won't care enough. If the players, if they do like the bushfire relief thing where they're clearly not going for it. There's no tackling. People don't want to get injured. Yep. People care too much about their actual teams to play that. But I don't know. It's not perfect, but something cool like that would be something I'd throw out there. Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you've got any cool ideas for a mid-season thing. Do we bring back AFLX? What do we do?
Shut up. Shut up. I want to see under 18s versus the all delisted team. A team of players whoever wins from the last season. And that's like their showcase. That's their chance.
If you lose the game, you can't be up for the mid-season draft. That's what's up for grabs for these delisted players. I don't know.
What if it's the under 18s and then every team nominates a player. So this is like Paddy Dow, go and play in this freaking game. You want a game?
Yeah.
Prove it. It's like
that's good.
The underdogs. Every team.
It's like a bit of a draft going on.
The players that just don't get any love, they get a chance to.
Guys that need a bit of form can't have a week off. Here you go. Your time to shine. There's something in this. Get us involved. Why are we not the new CEOs? We'll do it joint. We'll split the wage. I'm sure. Be nice.
60-40.
Speak for yourself. But look, that's going to wrap this one up. I'll make sure I'll save the tips. We don't want any issues here. Save those right now. Submit the tips. Let us know all your thoughts on this week's episode. Everything we touched on, everything we discussed. Give me your opinion. Again, if you're on YouTube, the comments are right there. You scroll half a centimeter and they're there. Make sure you like.
In case you didn't know how.
Oh my God. I didn't know there was this whole world underneath this video. I've been doing this wrong for years.
I'm done with you. Headphones off. You close it off.
At Navy Blue Corner is the socials. Find us there. Hang on. Didn't you say this week was when this is where you're going to do the pump up to end the show.
Oh,
I swear you said that. I swear you said that.
I may have said that. Hasn't been clipped, so we have no proof. Yeah, no, I felt like we did our pump up. I literally just got a low battery thing on my laptop. So, sorry.
Do not try to see. This is. Do not try to act like your internet's cutting out. I've gone through a tunnel, Lockie. I'm so sorry. You might. I'm cut. No. I'll give you this. I'll give you an out. Since you're not prepared, which even though I'm never prepared for these closes.
Oh, come on now.
You can either do it now or you can do it next week. Up to you.
Give me next week. I'm already looking at our Supercoach changes for this week.
That's fine. Well, we need to wrap things up because we've got some Supercoach changes to get through once this podcast ends. So more important things clearly are on our minds.
We're going to win.
The Baggers are going to beat the Ds. As I said earlier, everything's written in the stars again for this one. The club's in turmoil. Everything's going on. This is a must win. And there's a part of me that's just building up hope for this internally to get me up for this game. But if they don't show it this week, when are they going to do it? And it feels like maybe this is the time for it to turn. It has to happen at some stage. Let it be Friday night against the Ds. Let's all rock up and get there in full voice. Support the Baggers. But that's going to wrap up this episode. See you guys next time.